Most people believe that a successful retirement requires a state of constant vigilance. They feel they should be checking their account balances every week, keeping a rhythmic pulse on the daily movements of the S&P 500, and making those small, frequent tweaks to their portfolios. It feels like the responsible thing to do, doesn't it? But if we look at what the data actually tells us, we find a different story, one that is much more forgiving and, frankly, more peaceful. Overmanaging your retirement plan is actually one of the fastest ways to inadvertently damage it. I'm Clara Morgan. Thank you for joining me today. I want to share a perspective that might lower your blood pressure. You don't need to manage your long-term financial life every week to be successful. In fact, you shouldn't. What you truly need is a simple, repeatable, 15-minute annual checkup. This small window of time captures almost all the benefits of professional planning while shielding you from the biggest behavioral mistakes we humans tend to make. This isn't just a comforting thought, it's a strategy backed by decades of market data. To understand why less is more, we have to look at where retirement plans actually break. It's rarely a failure of math, it's almost always a failure of behavior. The research firm Dalbar has studied investor behavior for decades, and their findings are remarkably consistent. The average individual investor underperforms the broader market by roughly 3 to 4% every single year. Crucially, this isn't because they are picking bad stocks. It's because they are too hands-on. They react to scary headlines. They sell when the market panics. They chase performance when they hear about the latest can't-miss investment trend. In short, there is simply too much activity. By the time a piece of news reaches your television screen or your phone, it has likely already been priced into the market. Trying to outrun the news is a race we aren't built to win. The truth is, we have no idea when the market will fall, how deep the dip will go, or exactly when the recovery will begin. Pretending we do, even subconsciously, is the surest way to lock in long-term underperformance. Let's look at what that 3% difference actually looks like over a lifetime. It might sound like a small number, but the math of compounding is a powerful force. Imagine two friends, Sarah and Mark. Mark is an active trader. For 10 years, he tries to outsmart the market, but ends up underperforming by 3% annually. After a decade of stress, he decides to stop and simply switches to a passive strategy, earning the standard market return for the rest of his life. If both invested $1,000 a month for those first 10 years, the person earning a 10% market return ends up with roughly $205,000. Mark, earning 7% due to his activity, ends up with about $173,000. At year 10, that's a $32,000 difference. You might shrug and think, I can live with that. But let's fast forward 25 more years. Both friends stop adding new money and let their balances grow at a standard 10% rate. The $205,000 grows to approximately $2.2 million. Mark's $173,000 grows to roughly $1.9 million. That 10-year period of being too clever cost Mark $300,000 in the long run. You see, you don't just lose money in the years you underperform, you lose the compounding potential of the money that never had the chance to grow. What you do in the early stages of your plan has a massive echo later in life. This is why simplifying your strategy and limiting your interference is a protective act. So how do we actually implement this less is more approach? Research from institutions like Vanguard and Morningstar shows that rebalancing your portfolio just once a year, or only when your investments drift significantly, captures nearly all the risk management benefits you need. The goal of rebalancing isn't actually to beat the market, it's to keep your risk from quietly growing over time. When one part of your portfolio does exceptionally well, it becomes a larger percentage of your total wealth, which might make your plan more aggressive than you intended. When you rebalance, you are doing something that feels counterintuitive. You are selling a bit of what has performed well and buying more of what is currently on sale. More frequent rebalancing, monthly or quarterly, doesn't lead to better returns. It usually just leads to higher taxes, more transaction costs, and more opportunities for your emotions to get in the way. As Morningstar puts it, rebalancing is a discipline of risk management, not a tool for performance enhancement. Once you've chosen your path, your job is to stay close to it, not to fine-tune it every time the wind blows. When we look at household wealth data from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, a very humbling pattern emerges. Most wealth in America isn't built in a eureka moment or a lucky stock pick. It's built quietly. There are three primary drivers of wealth that are often overlooked because they aren't exciting. The savings rate. Households that save even a slightly higher percentage of their income end up with dramatically more wealth, not because they are better investors, but because they gave the engine more fuel. Time in the market. Net worth doesn't usually jump in the early years. It moves slowly at first, then accelerates as the decades pass. It's not that the investors got smarter, it's just that compounding became more visible. Participation. Staying invested through the full market cycle, the good, the bad, and the boring, is far more effective than jumping in and out. Those middle years often feel the hardest because progress feels invisible. But if you check your plan once a year, adjust your savings if possible, and then simply stay the course, you are doing 95% of what actually matters. You are giving compounding the one thing it requires: uninterrupted time. Now, let's talk about that 15-minute annual checkup. This is designed for everyone, especially for those who don't want to spend their retirement staring at spreadsheets. If you are a financial warrior who loves the data, this will be easy for you. If you aren't, this is the system that will keep you safe without turning your retirement into a second job. Minutes 0 to 3, update your net worth. This is a no judgment zone. List everything you own, assets, and subtract everything you owe, liabilities. Compare that number to last year. I recommend running two versions, one that includes your home equity and one that doesn't. This isn't about comparing yourself to the neighbors, it's about confirming that you are moving in the right direction. Direction matters far more than perfection. Minutes 3 to 6, check your savings rate. This is your biggest lever. Ask yourself three things. Did my income go up? Can I increase my savings or contributions by just 1%? Am I getting my full employer match? For most people, the amount you put into the system has more influence on your outcome than the specific funds you choose. Minutes 6 to 9, asset allocation and rebalancing. Does your mix of stocks and bonds still match your age and your comfort level? If you intended to be 60% stocks and you've drifted to 70%, nudge it back. If you're within a few percentage points, leave it alone. No forecasting, no reacting to news, just a gentle realignment with your original plan. Minutes 9 to 12, tax bracket awareness. We aren't looking for perfect optimization here. We are looking for obvious misses. What was your tax rate this year? Do you have room for a Roth contribution or a small conversion? Are you spreading your money across different buckets, pre-tax, Roth, and taxable, to give yourself flexibility later? Minutes 12 to 15, Social Security snapshot. Finally, a quick check-in. Log into ssa.gov and do three things. Review your earnings record for errors, confirm your credits, and reaffirm your claiming strategy. Whether you plan to claim at 62, 67, or 70, just make sure the plan still fits your life. Even if you are years away from retirement, knowing these numbers prevents last-minute stress. When you step back and look at this framework, the message is clear. Consistency beats complexity. participation beats perfection, simple systems dramatically reduce the risk that our own human behavior will get in the way of our goals. You don't need to log in every day. You don't need to optimize every cent. You just need a plan that you can actually stick to. This 15-minute annual checkup is enough to keep you directionally correct and catch any errors before they become problems. It's a way of building a financial life that actually fits the way we live. As you think about your own routine, I'd love for you to reflect on one thing. What is one small task you've been overmanaging this year that you could give yourself permission to let go of? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. I've found that when we simplify our finances, we often find we have much more room for the things that truly make a retirement meaningful. If this perspective helped you today, please consider sharing it with someone who might need a little more peace in their financial life. I look forward to seeing you in our next conversation. Until then, take a deep breath. You're doing better than you think.